today, if you run the organization, okay, you are the leader of the organization, you put money into development, you hope the people stay. Right? As much as you say, train them enough so that they can spread their wings, but keep them here, rubbish. Welcome back to another episode of Wise and Shine. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Budget Babe. Who's that?
Oh, I'm always doing something during introduction.
Exactly. That's why I cannot not there yet to replace Eric.
I'm Zad, the head of content for Rice Media, and I am drinking tea. Oh, I'm Zad, and I'm chewing nuts.
This episode today is quite interesting, quite important. Right? I think after our budget discussion, you see a lot of people considering this idea, and I do see a lot of my friends traveling abroad now to make major shifts in their lives, right? And it is definitely a situation that Singapore government cares, because in the 1980s, that's how home came about. Okay, this is home.
That's in 1980s?
Yeah.
1990s.
Oh, 90s. Yeah. This is home, because there was a big brain drain, okay? And
is it during that time?
Yes, that is the phenomenon. That's why they started this whole...
that's the background context of the story.
That is the background context, which is the story for today, right? So the question for today is, should Singaporeans live for greener pastures abroad? Yes. Discuss. Like GP question, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. But you still here.
Because I haven't found greener pastures as well, ma.
Okay.
You know my mic quite green.
If there's greener pastures elsewhere, yes. If SAMP calls me and say Zad, can you come to Hong Kong and lead our desk? In a heartbeat, child. In a heartbeat, I will go. There's nothing holding me down here. But that's because I come from a very privileged place of being single. I got no children. My parents can survive on their own. I have a brother here who will take care of them. So there's nothing holding me back. So I think the answer to that is, if there's nothing holding you back, go lah. If the greener pastures are overseas, go overseas.
How do you define greener? Or maybe maybe what about you first?
I'm very inclined to say yeah, but then echo chamber, right? So I'm going to go with no, because when you look at it in that perspective, right, why not build your greener pastures in Singapore?
Actually, for you, the answer is no, ma. Because you have family here, ma.
I cannot lah, yeah. But I mean, even if I could, I'm going to try and take a different perspective, whereby even if I'm in a scenario like yours where I don't have anything holding me back, we cannot build that greener pastures here in Singapore, man. I mean, some industry, true. But you can also create what doesn't exist, right? Isn't that an opportunity?
Singapore is so boring.
No, okay. So when I thought of this question, I think there's a 4-quadrant situation, right? Where are there really greener pastures? Yeah. Yes and no. Yes. Should you leave? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So it's a 4-quadrant situation, right? So maybe we start with defining what is considered greener pastures first. Like how should people think about greener pastures, because there's always a general bias, or at least socially, I think people still think grass is greener on the other side lah, right? But how do you objectively measure that it's actually greener?
More attractive and more potential lor.
More money.
Potentially, but sometimes it may not be about the money. Like for example, the Silicon Valley, every tech aspiring person wants to go there, right? So that's the greener pastures. And it makes sense, because there is where all the connections that the people physically are. If you are incubated there versus in elsewhere, you have a higher chance to succeed, because you can build those connections and relationships that are cross partnerships easier. So that could be one definition of greener pastures. Or let's say for singers, I mean, we all know, right? Our local singers, the market really just too small. The greener pastures are the ones who made it big, are those who went overseas.
Local singers, they all left.
No lah, have.
Have lah.
Who?
Have.
Gentle Bones, who just rebranded.
Sam Willows before they, I don't know whether they're still
for the whole ding dong. Yeah.
We did have.
Lincoln.
Right? Have a lot. The really big ones.
The big ones all
those
left.
Who left.
Yeah.
So like singing, acting, all that. I'm telling you something. If the marketplace is bigger elsewhere.
Yeah. And if your talent can bring you elsewhere, why don't you want to go? Singapore is so small. Singapore can only offer you so much, man, really.
But if you're very patriotic, you want to make a difference.
Which
to the
Singaporean
country
is patriotic,
that you are in. What I am.
Are you? Would you consider yourself like a... Fairly.
I think I used to think I wasn't. And I was all about the American dream, I watched all the American dramas while growing up, and I always thought I would end up in the US, marry some American dude and all. And then you see my life now.
And then you see your husband.
None of that happened. Okay, well, handsome. Okay, but anyway, but I think over time I started to realize that Singapore is actually quite a good place to be. And I want to make my impact felt in Singapore. That's why my blog name is so strategic. It's SG Budget Babe. It's not just Budget Babe.
They say you're set for life.
Yeah.
You can't be MY Budget Babe
How
or
can you
PH.
fight the other position, right? This is your position.
Because I think it's meaningful to contribute back to your roots, to what nurtured you. I'm very mindful that I was only able to come this far because of the environment that I grew up in. If I was born elsewhere where meritocracy is not such a big thing, don't have things like EduSave and scholarships that don't really look so much at your background and all, then I may not have succeeded the way I did. And I recognize that it is because of Singapore and what the environment was built and designed to be that helped me succeed. So I do want to contribute back.
Yeah. So if you get your given that line of thought, right, that means you will get your kid to enjoy the education system in Singapore lah. Right? I think that's less patriotic, more opportunistic, right?
Can't that go both hand in hand?
I don't know.
It's not a dichotomy.
Like honestly, right, I am not patriotic. I am a product of Singapore. I am opportunistic. Right, and that's what the policies in Singapore has taught us. It has taught us to be opportunistic. Go to where the opportunity is, and thrive there.
The opportunity can come in creating. Like, okay, you look at like my board for example, right? Finance, I'm sure you know, was not a thing in Singapore. There's no such thing as a finance creator. And while blogs like investment mode and all did exist, it just never got mainstream.
Very hard, yes.
Right, it was very niche. But then like I came in and I was like, no, just write lah. I mean, I tried to build it. I'm sure the audience exists somewhere. Let them come and then we build. And then I got to a certain traction. And I think also aided by the fact that the landscape changed at the same time. So it was a lot of factors coming in together. And then Work Salaryman came and they also changed the landscape in that sense. So why can't we build the greener pastures here as well?
Can build here lah. I think the facilities is very good here. But don't build here and stay here forever. Use the learnings from here to globalize law.
Why cannot stay forever?
Because not enough. This country only got so little people. There's only so little advertisers. And I can see this, when I publish my TikTok videos here, right? 9,000 views. When I publish it in JB, just because I'm in JB, right? 11,000.
Oh, is that the heck? So I should be publishing only in JB.
Yeah, if you want to reach the Malaysian market. So I will publish like my Malaysia makeup reviews in Malaysia. Only when I visit Malaysia. So for me, I am less patriotic, more opportunistic. If there's should Singaporeans live for greener pastures? Yes. Greener pastures is defined by more money and more opportunity lah. More money is very important because if I'm getting lesser than what I'm getting in Singapore, why am I leaving?
Yeah.
But sometimes it could be people leaving even though it's paid less because you recognize the opportunity is bigger.
Then it becomes it becomes opportunity lah.
Yeah, it's short term versus long term.
Yeah. So for me, it has to be both law. I don't think I will ever take a lesser just for me to leave. I think there's too much at stake lah.
No, but what if like you stay in like, I don't know, Chiang Mai or like New Zealand or something, like you hear people talk about that, right? Like, okay, we don't so hard lah, relax, right? Just take a break, cut back on the stress, cut back on the amount of work, take a lesser pay, and then it in some ways is defined as greener pastures, right? Because in their view,
what is attractive to them is
what do you want, right? So
Yeah.
the objective measurement of greener pastures is based on you, right?
Yeah.
Right. So like, what do you want? Okay, subjective, not objective, right? Subjective to you, right? And then from there, you have to kind of measure it along, right? It's like if your goal is career, right? If your goal is career and you work in finance, where else you want to go? Go KL, meh, siao.
Yeah.
Right? Here, Hong Kong, maybe Shenzhen, Shanghai, you want to go to New York, London, those are the main places, right? You go there. If you are creative, the sector here is small, right? It's as much as it gets. So many big players pull out. Right, so many big players that try to do here, they all pull out.
But I think it can also be seen as an opportunity. Right. Like, okay, so you look at, let's say, singing and acting, comedian, all those artists, right? A lot of them used to go overseas because bigger market, better development opportunities, potential, so on and so forth. But then you look at those who stayed, like look at Annette Lee. She's made such a big name and she's able to crack the Singapore market, and even my friends in Malaysia have seen her work already because she became big in Singapore. Before she did it, did anyone really crack this space? So it can also be viewed as, if the greener pastures are not exists, you can evaluate what is it about this place or this other opportunity that makes it so green to you, and can you replicate and bring some of that back here, and then, create that situation in Singapore for yourself.
So for her, she creme de la creme already, right? It's only like 170,000 followers, right? Right. So it's like, even if you creme de la creme here, the biggest fund houses or you run a very big company, it's only that big.
So it's how big your aspirations are.
If you go to like China, random creator also more than her.
So like, Annette Lee, right, since we're talking about her, right, is successful only because Singapore is very small. Right. And that probably is like, so she can, I mean, if you're going by dollars and cents, right, she can actually charge a little bit higher because she's like the only one in her field.
That's what we do, yes.
Yeah. So successful, right? But then I think if you want to go even more, right, even further, right, then Singapore is too small. It's just too small. And
it's sectorial, and we should be clear. It's very sector. If you're working in the port, Singapore is the second biggest port in the world, right? Like, why would you go to any other port?
Yeah,
right. Maybe Port Klang, number 7, right? So Singapore, depending on which sector, and I think that's the reality check that a lot of people don't have. They always want Singapore to be more of everything, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
No country is number one in everything.
It's like, you want to do agriculture, you work in NParks or you leave lah.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what you want to do? There's nothing to grow here.
Yeah.
Right? 30 by 30, right? Or something like that. That one is impossible. We got no land.
Investment also got one term for that. Total addressable market.
Yeah.
So if you recognize that staying here has a smaller total addressable market, like Rice Media, I'm sorry to say this, but the truth is your audience is just like that, right?
Yeah.
You can't grow out of it. It's not like, unless you want to set up overseas team and all, but the reality is, as long as you remain a Singapore outlet, this is the max audience that you can get.
Yes.
There's nothing more.
Yeah.
But if you have bigger aspirations, you want to capture a bigger market, then you need to go where the total addressable market is bigger, like Malaysia and so on and so forth.
So like Vietnam, sorry, not Malaysia. Yeah, I think Vietnam.
So the size of the person or the company's aspirations also matter.
Of course, it's like if you're a chef and you want to run atas restaurant, where you go, you stay here. This is the place where you can run atas restaurant, right? And why would you go anywhere else? All the big chefs are coming here to open atas restaurant because people can pay, right? So it's very craft driven. It is very sector driven. It is what you want, and then there must be some objective standards, because I think throughout a lot of discussion, it's always like more. Singapore can be more. It's like, yeah, I know Singapore can be more, but more what? At what level, right? So certain ideas are there, like manufacturing. Why you stay here? Siao, go lah, right? There's no manufacturing here, right? There may be some high-end stuff here and there, but it's not prevalent.
I think if we look at the government budget, the government also knows this. That's why for certain sectors, they pour in more money.
Of course, because can make money.
Like biomedical and all, they really push it in so that we can have more of that edge and have a bigger space for it. But then they also recognize, like, see the government saying, oh, we're going to nurture a lot of singers. They won't put a budget there because they know the market is just not big enough.
But
then also greener pastures, like you said, right, really depends on what your objective in life is, right? So if your objective in life is to like relax,
like mine,
sit by the field, by the farm and things
like that,
right?
Have you seen my balcony? Like beautiful with my cats.
Stop selling your houses, guys. Every episode.
Lovely,
and if that's your thing, right, then sure, the pastures are only as good as how you define it to be, right?
And it can be seasonal. Because there was a period of time that I wanted to, have more space, breathing, slow down. I go to where I am, right? So I have a very beautiful house, 2 balconies, right? And then just relax.
Yeah.
But as my business develop, as TFC grow, as the show develop, then you ask yourself, you want to make ringgit or you make Singapore dollar? Right? Very realistic one, this thing. I want to serve what client? Right? I talk to my content creator friends in Malaysia. It's like, like that only? Right? It's like you're so big, but the price that you can charge is just not there.
Yeah.
Right? So myself, I put all my efforts trying to create here for the finance departments here, right? Because if you all didn't know, financial companies run very nationally, right? Different country got different license. They are very different entities, right? So and this is just how, as your way of life change, how do you go about measuring greener pastures, right? I think that is something that people need to reflect a little bit about. And you are seasonal, you will change, and then like, can we be a bit more nimble moving in and out? Like when I want to retire, why would I want to retire here? Maybe Chiang Mai, so beautiful.
Yeah. That's like the 4th time you've mentioned this country.
I think also like what
tourism
you say,
board should sponsor lah. Yes.
The season thing is important note, because like you mentioned yourself as well, like you're not in that position where you have that liabilities and things not liabilities, shouldn't say that, but you don't have people or things holding you back. But someone who
I'm gonna cut that and say, Mommy say your liability.
when I was young, right, when I was in my 20s, I really thought and I really wanted to go and work in America. And then after that, I was like, hey, actually, China also not bad. They're so stressed out there. I think I can survive 2 years in such a high stress environment, then come back to Singapore and be more moderate. But then I got married and I had kids and I'm like, all that I cannot. Because it will come at a price. Yeah. So I think if people are in a certain season, they can afford to take more risk and go abroad. And I think it should be encouraged, right? But then the government will also have to then figure out how to get these people back.
I really do think that regardless of what your ambitions and what your dreams are, right, I think Singapore is too small.
Depending
small
on
for your
what
dreams.
sector.
No, finance is big here, really, bro. It's because it's not about the number of people, it's about the amount of money.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep. Now back to the show.
Okay.
It's because it's like, okay, let me just give you some context, right? Like why the finance guys pay so much for cost per acquisition or CPM, because one person can only eat that amount of snacks. So it's singular, right? Like this one mouth, how much they can eat, agar is there. But one person can have like millions and millions and millions of dollars. So the per value of like getting a lead in Singapore is much higher than in other countries. So it's very sector driven, right? And like port, all this, so many shipping companies here. I mean, other than Evergreen, 52-month, that one is crazy, right? Right. But if let's say you're doing like high-end manufacturing, computer chips, cannot be here. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
Right. Those are manufacturing lines. All your Micron, all this, they're not going to do any much. You're not going to make much progress, right? You must go head on, go to China, right? Go to Taiwan. If that is the sector you want to be in, then go there and play the game. If that is your goal, corporate excellence, like move up the echelon of the sector. Yeah, and all that.
But I also want to be the devil's advocate lah. I think people should also be more, appreciative of what brought them to where they are, appreciate Singapore and then contribute back.
I appreciate Singapore.
But because you could be someone that you benefit from the whole environment that is Singapore, then if you're just very selfish, right, you just take that and then you just go and you plant your roots and seeds elsewhere, and Singapore gets nothing back from you. Then
actually that's the whole Malaysian brain drain discussion.
That's the Singapore brain drain back then also, right?
Yeah, no, because it's like
that's what brain drain is.
The state take care of you, teach you, subsidize you, everything. Then you go other places, build other people's country.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of the Malaysian guys are talking about. So it's quite interesting, right? Because
why the giving is not sincere and must take back one. Give without sincerity, is it?
They give, but then if everyone just give and no return, also very hard. It's an investment also.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay,
it's taxpayers' money.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's hard, right? From an individual viewpoint, we want to think like, okay, like just like it's part of the state, right? We serve our national service, whatever, right? So we want to do that. But today, if you run the organization, okay, you are the leader of the organization, not the government. Let's say you run a company, right? You put money into development, you hope the people stay. As much as you say, train them enough so that they can spread their wings, but keep them here. Rubbish! It's like, you want to try your best to keep them here because you're going to invest in them and you want them here so that they can continue to develop and grow, right? So I can understand why the leaders would want to do it. If I'm the leader of the country, I will also want to do that, right? How can I do better to keep you here? So that you can continue to grow here. Of course, if the sector doesn't support you, I should support you to go there.
Yeah, go
and
elsewhere.
Then contribute back in other ways, which is the shift already. You already see the policy shift over time. Last time don't have one. Now EDB support you. Okay, you expand abroad. I think they got some professional support also. Give you grants to like work overseas, send Singaporeans out. So those things are happening. It's a cultural shift. Generational shift.
I think, right, the assumption is that the leaving for greener pastures means never coming back.
Right? Which is very real, right?
Yeah.
Some people are not just you thought it would be seasonal also, but then you go there, you realize, hey, actually I like this country more. Then you plant your roots there.
So the work here, right, is how do you make people consider Singapore a home? Right? If Singapore is efficient, like I come back to Singapore, right? I love the efficiency. Like public transport, I can use like PayWave everywhere I go. PayNow, very efficient, so sleek, right? But this is, as I said, for someone like myself, right, who have nothing to tie me here. I have family, but nothing's going to tie me here. the question for people like me is, what is home? Has Singapore made itself a suitable home for me? And I can say right now, right, that it hasn't lah, right? And until it does, I will look for greener pastures. But whether I come back is uncertain.
Wow, to me it's the
Yeah.
opposite. Even if I go for greener pastures overseas, it will always be short-term one. But I think what I like and really love about Singapore is, number one is the relationships, right? It's the connections with the people, my husband, my kids, my parents and in-laws that's holding me here. And I
Yeah.
want to stay here because they like Singapore. So we all work together to make everyone happy. The other thing also is, I like the security.
Of course.
When I was living in the US, like, wow, you at night, it's so fast, so dark, and with the gun policy, Singapore, you won't be afraid that you gonna shot. Yeah, so I really appreciate that a lot, and I want my kids to grow up in that environment. The other one is also the education system, right? I like, although this can be improved, which is another topic for our next podcast, but I like the whole system of meritocracy, that they get a chance at opportunity. And although I do think that we can do more to even out that access to opportunity, and the efficiency, public transport, if you don't have a car, you don't know how to drive, you can still survive, you can go around, solutions and all. And while of course, I don't like certain things like cost of living. Well, it would be nice to go to Chiang Mai and retire there, right? But I still wouldn't do it, because at least not for a long time.
You will lah. When I do it, I will show you. Say, hey, see,
But there are certain things that we give up in return.
Of course,
Yeah.
right? It's like you want security, then okay, no freedom of speech, none of that lah. It's a given. You cannot have one side and not the other side.
Exactly.
You want the hard hand of the law to do certain things, to make sure it's safe, to make sure you put the laptop there, nobody's gonna take anything. Then you expect the hard hand of the law in other ways, right? So it is. I think sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people like we want more. I get it, right? I also want more, right? But it is the structural reality of it, Like you cannot have one side and not the other side. It comes like package.
And the food. Oh, I cannot live.
No, but
elsewhere.
I have a different view, because I am someone that have lived abroad for many years, right? Like I lived in China for a year. I've been in KL for like 2 years. 1 year before pandemic, now 1 year after. In the middle of the pandemic, I stayed like 3 months in Turkey, 3 months in Georgia. I've tried many places, right? And I don't consider myself a tourist. I consider myself maybe more like a nomad, right? Like I stay there, right? I go there, I set up shop, and I stay there, right? So my personal experience with like whatever you said about like connections and all that, right? Actually, you can build one when you're there.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and the longer you stay there, the deeper you're entrenched there. Like that day I was texting my friend, hey, I want to buy a whole pig. It's like, what the hell you want? It's like, because I want to make this, I want to do that, and then he was like, okay, I find for you. Like, this is the kind of thing that you will never walk into a random new place and then be able to do. You must be there long enough, know enough people, do all those kind of stuff. And then, but these things will develop. Over time, you have more and more relationships, more and more friends, and you get, somehow rooted in.
Yeah. So the tribe can be developed. The tribe can be established.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just that for someone like yourself, right, where you have like family involved, right, it's a bit difficult. It's a bit different lah.
Because they may not want that.
Correct. Your roots have already been embedded very deep inside. You can transplant for a bit.
It's not just my roots, their roots also.
Correct. All entangled into one garden. Then you want flower, you can go, right? But you must still come back so that you can get the nutrients from these roots. But for me, I'm a singular plant, lalang. A very singular lalang.
And
I hate
with
lalang,
chlorophyll, you can photosynthesize anywhere, right?
Always stuck on my trousers.
I'm very annoying that way. Always stuck on people.
Yeah.
Then I can just travel. I can just go. Like then I can find my tribe somewhere else. So this is a very good example of greener pastures means different things to different people, right? And different circumstances. So yes, there's probably no like set answer to that lah. There's probably no definitive answer to that, like, and it's very annoying. But if you're thinking of leaving, for me personally, right, when I listened to the Onata episode, right, where she's like, go,
go,
don't I might cry, and I will cry, but don't let my tears stop you from leaving. And I feel that is like that is so powerful, for you to tell your child, right, that the world is bigger than what you are experiencing here. Here is very safe. Here is very secure, very stable, very predictable. But that is not the kind of life that you want to lead lah. If you are the kind of person who wants to really like enjoy like really experience life lah. Singapore is not the place because everything is so predictable.
So I think this, to sum it up, it really is about tying into what you want, what you find attractive, and then like if somewhere else aside from Singapore offers you that greener pastures, then go.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
And yeah.
I would also like to say, I would love it if more people could think about staying and contributing back lah. Then I think the country wouldn't have such a big brain drain problem either.
No, I
Okay.
think today is not that bad yet. The brain drain is not as bad today.
Not
Really?
yet? I don't know.
You feel so?
Now we
I don't
got
know,
birth rate problem. So
I
got
think-
many problems all happening at once.
I think us being globalized, right, is like really we're very successful at globalizing.
Yeah.
Too successful. So I can just go off anywhere.
Yeah, but I think on that side, when you say what is the Singapore identity, what's home, right? Yeah, it's true. So globalized until for some people, it doesn't feel like home. Yeah, for me, that's because of all that other people's roots, right? That I am inexplicitly tied to. So it is home for me. Yeah, but if I was in your situation, and I was also in my 20s, that's why in my 20s I was like, yeah, I want to go work overseas, I want to live overseas.
Yeah, I think Reggie is in that exact situation, right? Where nothing is holding you back, which brings me to that question. What will make you come back?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. You should check out the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. What episode is it? Housing disparity,
The housing
right?
disparity,
housing
yeah. What will make you
disparity,
come back? And your answer is if there's enough space for me here, right? But what is that space? Is it a metaphorical space? Is it a physical space? Is it a spiritual space? Because if you cannot find it here, then you cannot find it here, no?
Yeah.
But if you had a wife who is very deeply embedded in Singapore, cannot leave one, and you love her a lot, 1,000%.
I mean, if you make it,
Then-
if the context is like that, then you stay lah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if the context is like that, right? But I believe that most people's contexts are not like that. Because if the context is so certain, there's no discussion.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if the problem is easy, then it's not a problem. It's solved already.
No, have.
right.
Like, I am in conflict because I still do want to like live in China 1 year, do that kind of stuff, but I can't.
Yeah. So that is where the conflict is,
Yeah
But
lor.
if it's
But I have to just come to terms
if it's like
with it.
just like that, right?
and
Then it's
accept.
so clear. Then there's no need for discussion, right? Then it's just like it's what it is, or you want the wife or you want the life, right? you choose, right? And if you want the wife and that is your life, then you stay. It's quite simple. It's the people in between, right? It's like you want to go there, but then there's here, but then maybe there's there, and then like that. It's like
And that's about weighing what is more important.
yeah,
than just
and
being at peace with it.
yeah, and I think then that will bring us back to the discussion of like, okay, is this going to be permanent? Which highly unlikely when you first leave. If when you leave the place and you think like it's going to be permanent, then the problem is more complicated than the place itself. Right? It's probably you trying to search for a place, because that is what I felt when I first left. I always thought it's a Singapore asshole, like Singapore annoying, After that I realized maybe it's more complicated than that, right? The place has its own thing, has its own issues, has its own beauty. You use it or you live how it is, right? You work with it, right? It's like you don't go against the waves, right? On that front.
I think a regular co-host Eric is not here, but
Yeah.
this really feels like he would step in at this point and say this. Go where you are celebrated,
Yeah.
where you thrive. And if Singapore is that for you, then do it here. If
Yeah,
it's
that's so
Taiwan or somewhere. Right.
Eric's
I'm
essence lives on.
channeling Eric
Right,
now,
he's
Mr.
here, he's
Positivity.
here, yes,
yeah, but
yes.
if Taiwan is the place for you, then go. But if not, then
I mean, I find it hard to believe that any Singaporeans are celebrated here.
have lah. But I think it goes
You want
back
to double
to the
down?
size
I
of
totally
your
sense the angle coming.
aspirations.
Yes.
So explore.
Size of your aspirations, right? 100k followers can still be celebrated, but then if your aspiration size is bigger, you want the Lin Junjie kind of outreach, then you'll go abroad.
I don't know. I always feel like Singapore is such a temporary place for most people. It's a beautiful temporary place, though, safe, efficient, right? But it's such a temporary place. It's a great place for temporary stay.
And to be clear, if you wind back history, just not few hundred years, Singapore has been a port since
20, 30 years ago.
since the 1600s. Okay, Singapore has been very well documented to be the port of the Malayan archipelago since the 1600s. Okay, it's not like we are not fishing village for damn long already. Okay, and a lot of people, they will come, right? They come from Penang, they come from Ipoh, they come from Malacca, they bring their things here, they trade, they do whatever they need to do, then they go back to the kampung. Right, so Singapore has been a port for a long time for a lot of moving people. Like it's just that after that, when Singapore became a nation of its own, then you cannot have people keep moving, right?
Yeah.
You don't have people here, to defend the place. You don't have people here to want to live here. Then it's like, how are you going to run this country? So then a lot of policies start to come in to say that, you must do national service, you must do this, you must do that, you must give everybody a home. Why? Because you give them a home, they will stay. Right? The higher chances of them to stay and not be so mobile.
Yeah.
Right. So it is a structural situation for centuries where people just move in. And I would say all the Angmo here, they treat this place like a port.
Yeah.
It's like in and out. And actually, I would even argue that a lot of young Singaporeans do it the same, right? You work a job here, great job, good enough for you to be like, this week I'm going Bali, next week I'm going Chiang Mai, next week I'm going Hong Kong, ding ding dong dong, ding ding dong dong. It's no longer you bring things to trade, but you go out there, you live there in that sense, you know what I mean? Then you come back, you work, then you go there.
Yeah.
Right? So
Agreed.
it's like in, out, in, out, in, out. So it's a very interesting phenomenon that I don't know if there's a solution.
Don't have.
Really?
I think Singapore
How
is
to vote for you, Jen?
I think Singapore is a place. Singapore is a place of transitions. Right? If you are so concerned about identity, like we need like another 50 more years. So too young to have like an identity. We're still stuck in the transitions, right? I think Singapore, I think a lot of the thing that the government does for like our transport, all this efficiency, right, is actually in fact for visitors, to make it convenient for them to travel around. Like the trees are lined from Changi Airport to wherever you want to go at the expressway, right? So that people can see like, wow, so pretty, so pretty, so pretty. But then HDB got mold,
Actually,
BTO flats got mold.
I see what
but the
the
trees are
government-
still beautifully pruned.
I see what our government does as a blend. And in that blend is our identity.
I don't
It's
see
just that it's a blend, so it's not as distinguishable.
I
And we're
think-
probably still building that blend. That's why, because it's changing, it's evolving, right? But to me, that blend is my identity.
I think the identity in Singapore is blend.
Yeah.
It's like
B-L-A-N-D.
The other blend now.
It's like
Yeah.
blend.
It's blend.
But I think you're right. The blend is blend now.
Yeah. So like, and you can see it from like the National Day, right? Every time National Day, right? The center portion, the show portion, right? It's always the same. It's always harkens back. Singapore was a fishing port. All right.
Okay, I vote you for the NDP director next year.
Like,
Let's see how you
vote for
change
you
that.
I vote for you.
If you keep going, if you keep going back to that, right? Then you will never get out of that. Like, we used to be a fishing port. Now look at us.
But we are not. Just saying.
We are more than our history, right?
Yeah,
and the government refuses to let go because I think the moment you let go of history, right, you let go of a lot of control.
It does.
Right?
It
You,
does.
you let go of the
You lose the
Also
narrative.
cannot
narratives,
because the people who are around and were a part of that history may then feel very neglected and very wrong if you don't acknowledge it.
I mean, reference and acknowledge, but don't harp on it so much. Singaporeans, they love to harp on it. So this boils down to a matter of identity. So my stand is Singapore is very transitional. It's very bland. And the blandness, right, comes not from lack of trying. It's just a consequence of being transitional lah. Because everything is so diluted, right? There's so many kinds of Singaporean, and nobody takes I mean, we all will speak up for each other, but I don't think we stand by like one real identity. What is our real identity? Our real identity is unknown, and that's just something that we have to live with lah.
Yeah, this is like a GP question. What is the Singapore identity? And until we can figure that out, then we can't blame people for wanting to go for the greener pastures because there's less holding them back.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you feel that, okay, so I think the question here is, you feel that once the identity is clear, more people will stay?
Yes.
Yeah, I also think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
But
if-
again,
why?
sectorial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, and
The
if they-
singers
and-
and all won't stay lah. The market
Yeah,
is too
and
small.
if it's a home for everyone, it will not be home for, it will not, the dream, right, is that it's a home for everyone, regardless of your gender, your sexuality, your race, your sector. It's a home for everyone. That's the dream, right? But it's impossible, for a place to be a home for everyone. So you leave, Then the fact that we are so young, right, doesn't give us any room to maneuver. We don't have nostalgia. It's only like how many years old in Singapore? There's no nostalgia. So that's the reality of it. I know, like very harsh, right?
Very.
Yeah, but I'm unmovable
But it makes
about
sense.
this. Yes.
That makes sense because that's the ground reality, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so I guess to wrap up,
Yeah.
it was really about like thinking what's the size of your aspirations, what is greener pastures to you, what is the total addressable market,
Yeah.
and how much can you capture in going abroad potentially if you don't want to stay in Singapore? And then if you're like me where you cannot, a bit hard to move because you have other things tying you down, rooting you here, then how can we make where we are as green as possible?
How about I want to ask the closing question of like, give me a defined scenario where you will leave, right? So you all have a decent life here. I mean, let's be clear, right? Decent life here, good quality. What is a defined scenario where you'll be like, okay, I will go?
I'll go back sectorial. If I'm a singer,
no, like for you, not a hypothetical. It's like under what circumstance Dawn will leave?
Wow.
Or under what circumstance Zat will leave?
Oh, if New York Times call me, right, and say, we need you to set up the Asia desk. Can you come? Sure.
And they say set up in Singapore? Then stay lah.
Then I mean, I can stay here, but I don't want to stay here.
Okay.
You have to set up the Singapore desk.
A Singapore desk. I mean, I can.
The
but
Singapore Times.
Yeah, I want to go somewhere else. That's what will get me over lah. When my talents, right, is appreciated, and I get paid more lah.
I think for me it would be when the cost of living becomes too high.
Oh, so it's a push factor, not a pull factor.
Yeah. Because a lot of my pull factors are here, family,
Yeah.
and all. And I am satisfied. I don't have to be the biggest financial influencer in the world. I'm content with being big and recognizable enough in Singapore. So I think there's still a lot of room for me to grow here, right? But if the cost of living becomes so expensive that living becomes hard, and as a result, we make so many trade-offs for my kids, and money now becomes such a big stress. Because my background came from the fact that money was a big stress in my household, and I don't want that to be the case for my family. That's what will make me go. So if Singapore can't control the cost of living and moderate it, and sorry, giving all this ang pao assurance package not assuring enough. Yeah, but like I think we also recognize that cost of living will keep going up for as long as you're a developed country. But I think having the essentials like housing, or maybe even potentially going the Europe way, which is free education. Yeah, I think that would help me to stay more. I honestly don't mind paying like 5 or 10% more taxes if education was free and I don't have to worry about my kids.
If education is free, healthcare is free.
Healthcare, yeah.
Yeah, all these things. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I agree.
I would leave because of money. My name, that right? Budget big. So everything is money.
No, but that is so nice, so interesting. As in the sense of like, I do think that's what a lot of people are thinking of. Yeah.
So it's not a pull, it's a push.
It's a push.
Yeah. So government do something about the cost of living. Make less people want to migrate to JB or Chiang Mai or Chiang Rai.
JB so many.
To retire.
So many.
Make them retire here.
Yeah, it's like, Zat is like live in JB. Come here only 2 days a week. Right? Yeah, it's amazing. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.